Hello, my neglected followers. I'm reporting to you from a new environment, and I have glasses now. And I'm also wearing my pajamas. So, it's Sunday. Not a whole lot is expected of me in the way of dressing properly. So, aside from that, one thing in common with everyone else on Sunday, I too am going to read from the good book, and I think you know which one I'm talking about. It's been a while, and I've decided to read through the whole book. However, I'm gonna skip over the boring parts, which they're plentiful, but not usually very long before our usual expected debauchery takes place. So, there is another video where I read the introduction, the prologue, called Shamed, where our dear Roger Prince, aka Donkey, aka Cup of Cream, is captured by a Russian woman, and he got whipped and he realized how much he loved it. So that's pretty much, it's a period piece, sure, and some of the history of World War I is discussed, but we're not reading this for a narrative. We're not. So I'm gonna remove my glasses. So we're gonna get right down to it. So here's chapter 1 of The Training of an English Gentleman by Yolanda Selbridge. It is called Fresh to the Birch. He has yet to be birched. He has only been whipped by a lady's hand. So, here we go. I was to spend the summer before going up to Oxford at Virginia Lodge, the home of Major Dark, an old friend of my father's from the Great War. It was near the pleasant town of Virginia Water, and the boundaries of Berkshire and Surrey, an area which is sufficiently far from London to be the country, yet sufficiently near to be metropolitan. I should attend to my studies and be treated as one of the family, helping as needed in tasks on the estate. We all know what that involves. But he's at the railway station being ready to be picked up by characters that we are duly familiar with. As I waited for the motor car to pick me up from the railway station, I had ample time to observe the ladies of the town, without exception, true flowers of English womanhood, wide faces and lips, rosy complexions, and blessed with firm, thrusting ripeness in both bottom and breast. Or so it seemed to my young male eyes! Exclamation point. They had blonde hair for the most part, curled and teased and bobbed, as this is a period piece. And I watched the movement of their haunches, those ripe orbs swaying under satin, silk, and cotton. I thought, as I still do, that there is nothing so delicious in this world as the right bottom of an English lady. Thus my pulses were already agreeably racing on that hot June day as the Dark family arrived from their gleaming Bentley to collect me, and I first set eyes on Miss Florence Dark. It would be wrong to say that Miss Dark was the first true love of my life, since the word love has all sorts of soppy connotations. Soppy and sloppy. Rather, I was struck by a thunderbolt. Miss Florence Dark seemed to unite in her person all the beauties of Virginia Water and of English womanhood in its entirety. She did not glance at me from her seat in the rear of the car. My adoration of her person was enhanced by the woeful certainty that she would never return it. that she would never give a fig for me, and was here as a chore of politeness. That the most I could hope for would be to act as her adoring errand boy, if permitted. You're gonna be running some errands, my friend. I sat beside her on the drive back to Virginia Lodge. Her perfume, her nearness, the perfection of her creamy skin entranced me, and I felt a delicious, hopeless tingling in my manly parts. Her bosom swelled ripe and full. Her croup matched her breasts impeccably, leading to powerful thighs and dainty, slender feet. Her blonde tresses cascaded disdainfully over her wide cheekbones and strong brow, and her broad, full lips were set in an expression of stony indifference as she stared out the window, away from me. She wore a suit of beige cotton, with white stockings and a white cotton blouse buttoned severely to the collar, and her feet were shod in heavy, sensible shoes with a lovely golden buckle which looked like a little riding crop on a horse's saddle. Her mother was similarly attired, though in sensible gray. She had lustrous raven hair and slightly tan complexion with a pert elfin beauty, very supple and fluid in her gestures, and seemed very young to be Miss Florence's mother. I paid a clumsy compliment that it was hard to tell mother from daughter, and Mrs. Dark beamed in delight, though Miss Florence's stony expression did not change. It's because it's a shitty comment. It's not a shitty comment, it's just very common. "See, Flossie," cried Mrs. Dark, "our young man is flirting already." "He may be your young man, Mummy, but he is not mine," she replied frostily. "And please do not call me Flossie. It makes me sound like some sort of serving maid. A scullery maid, if you will." She sniffed and stared out the window away from me as though the most interesting object in the world were 1,000 yards distant. Major Dark laughed and said there was little danger of her being mistaken for a serving maid, as you couldn't get them nowadays. "Oh, Daddy," said Miss Florence, crossing her legs with a delicious swishing of cotton and an equally delicious curl of her lip. We passed through the pleasant, rolling countryside dotted with woods and mansions, and eventually, at the end of a winding, secluded lane, came to Virginia Lodge itself. The driveway took us past flower gardens, ponds, and orchard, to a charming house that seemed part Elizabethan, part Jacobean, part Georgian, and much less, I am sure, a testimony to our English genius for modesty and improvisation. A pretty, if tousled young lady, who was addressed as Grub. Grub? We all know Grub. Greeted us with a sullen curtsy and took charge of my meager baggage. Major Dark explained that Grub was a general factotum who lived in the estate and did for them. "Hard to get male hands," said the Major mischievously, "and I'm not sure I'd want them, given female aptitude for drudgery." "Oh, really?" cried Mrs. Dark gaily, pretending to be cross, and Miss Florence's lips opened for a fleeting second in a heavenly sneer of amusement. Grub curtsied again, half turning to reveal the ripe pears of her shapely and very large buttocks. She reminded me delightfully of the ladies I had observed in Virginia Water, though a slightly more disheveled version. Her face was smudged, her wide lips curled in an exquisite pout, framed by a rumpled mane of blonde hair, streaked with pale fire by the sun. Her breasts were as massive as her rump, and the magnificent udders and croup might have seemed disproportionate in another female, except that her superbly muscled body carried the beauty quite effortlessly, even as they seemed threatening to burst from her sloppy, skimpy dress. that left her brown legs bare above heavy boots. She seemed like a mare, coquettishly proud of her animal beauty, yet unsure how a lady should present it properly. Well, that was an introduction to most of the characters with which we are familiar. And they have dinner. Magnificent breasts are exposed. They dined on handsome roast beef, exchanged rather ribald anecdotes, and I think we'll pick it up after dinner, because that's when all the fun starts. So stay tuned.